welcome. Okay, so what are we going to do today? Well, today's project is going to be short but sweet and all about decoupage. Decoupage, however you want to say it, it's all the same thing to me. And we're going to be using a fun paper from DixieBellePaint.com. I did include a link in the description so you can find this paper as well, and we're gonna play with some paper, and I'm gonna show you the tips and tricks of the trade when it comes to applying paper to a painted surface. All right, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to drop them in below. If I happen to miss it, I will come back in and answer it later. And as always, all of these videos are then sent over to my YouTube as a finished product. So if you're ever looking for one of the projects we do here together on my own page, you can find it on YouTube. So what do you need to apply a paper to a painted surface so that you get the best possible outcome with really minimal to none for wrinkles? Well, you're gonna need some things that you might not be thinking of, one of which is the saran wrap right here. But I'm gonna go over all of the details today so that you know exactly what you need to put this paper onto this piece. So this paper, number one, is rice paper. It is a little bit thicker. It has some fibers in it. I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna show you the back, show you the front. It's easier to use than regular tissue paper because it doesn't tear as quickly. All right, so the paper I'm gonna be using today is rice paper. Second up, the medium that you're going to use to put on your paper and smooth it out is going to be saran wrap or plastic wrap. However you want to call it, this is the ticket to getting a really simple and easy wrinkle-free design without having to, number one, blow your budget, and number two, get it a nice smooth surface. So this is just basic saran wrap that you would use to seal your food. You're going to need a medium to apply your paper to the project and get it to stick. My personal favorite is Clear Coat in Satin. Clear Coat in Satin is a water-based satin sealer. It's going to give you minimal amount of shine, and this is the product that I'm going to use to put the paper onto the piece. Once it's dry, you would use this again to seal over top. You're also going to need your brush to apply that clear coat, and you're going to need a water bottle. So this spray misting bottle is filled with water. We're going to use it to spray the back of the paper before we put it down onto the piece. This allows the paper to come a little bit stretchy and lets you pull it on and get it where you want it to go. Last but not least, scissors. You're going to need some scissors. Scissors to cut your paper to size, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So let's begin. I'm going to put everything down, and we're going to open this up. So Dixie Belle has a couple of different things when it comes to decoupage paper. You can see that this paper is the same pattern. And number one, it's just different sizes. So this paper is a smaller version, which would fit the top of this chest. This chest has a inset panel that I want to apply, as well as the front of the piece. But if I put this paper on the front of the piece to fit, it's the wrong way, right? It's sideways. I would like it to be this way. So we're gonna put this smaller one aside, and we're gonna open up the larger one so that I can show you how we're gonna cut it and apply it to this chest, all right? Okay. So this paper is called Book of Insects. Book of Insects from Dixie Belle. It is a larger size. This is made to fit on top of maybe a dresser or the front of a buffet. But we're going to cut it up today so that I can get my paper going on in the right direction on this chest. You can see how big it is? I mean, you could cover this whole entire thing. It's highly pigmented. Rice paper is printed on the top part of the surface. You have the front and then you have the back. This is why when I say using that saran wrap to push your paper down is a good idea, because this is printed ink on top of paper. And if you manipulate this too much and push this around and use too much water, you take the risk of this paper actually taking some of the color and lifting the color. So using the actual saran wrap to smooth is a really great idea, because it's just going to help you get everything nice and smooth without pulling that ink off this paper. So I'm going to look at my paper and go, okay, I can see that I want to fill this panel right here. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You could grab a pencil, you could grab a marker, and you could gently trace it out. Either way is going to work. It doesn't look like I have any pencils close by, so I'm going to do it the way that I always do it, which is just scoring the edges with my fingernail. Allows me to cut this to size, and I might even go a little bit bigger than my scoring line to cut this paper to fit my piece. So now when I flip it over, I can see where I've scored my edges, right? You can also do this with, oh, there's my pencil, it's hiding. with a pencil. So you can easily just flip it over and do the same thing. Either way is gonna work. I usually just score my edges, but this might be better with the amount of pattern that's on this paper. Plus the fact that I'm doing it live means that I have to talk to you guys and also cut paper at the same time. And we all know that I seem to be unable sometimes to do two things at once. So we're just gonna trace this little inset edge with my pencil, and then I'm able to cut this with my scissors. So let's take this paper and cut it. How's everybody doing today? I see some people watching. So I'm gonna come in, I'm actually gonna cut it a little bit wider than where I drew my pencil line. This is just gonna allow for any mistakes because you don't want to measure and cut the wrong size, okay? Again, just going a little bit outside my paper line, getting this all ready for the top of this piece. So if you're watching today, have you tried to do decoupage? Is this something that you have done on top of furniture before, or maybe a small project like this, a chest? It's something that I used to be a little bit afraid of, I'm not gonna lie. It was always a little bit intimidating for me, but I seem to have caught the hang of it now, and now you can't stop me. Now I'm gonna keep going till I run out of paper. You can actually even take this paper and cut up the butterflies that are on this paper and apply them individually, which I might do when it comes to layering this piece. And I'm gonna move my paper out of the way, and what we have left is a smaller version of that big one, right? So this is a smaller version that I'd like to sit inside this panel. So now I can kind of space out and see, do I want to cut any of that little bit of excess off? Because remember, I cut it a little bigger to make sure. Let's make this edge line up. This edge, see if I were to cut that too small, that wouldn't have fit that edge right exactly there. So now I can actually go in and score this if I want again. But there's a little curve to this chest. I might just put it down as is. I think it's a pretty darn good fit. It's just gonna come up a little bit on top of that lip. Okay, so now we've cut our paper to size. You have the front of your paper, you have the back of your paper. You can really see the fiber that's inside this rice paper. That's what makes this paper a little bit sturdier, a little bit more cloth-like versus a tissue paper. So what you're gonna do is you're going to get your medium that you're going to be applying onto your piece. This is an almost empty can of satin clear coat. I'm just gonna spray my brush a little bit, and we're going to grab some of this satin clear coat, and it's a little bit thick and chunky because this is the very end of my jar. And I'm going to go heavy on application, okay? It's okay if I get this outside the lines because this is clear coat. It's gonna dry clear, right? I'm not locked into making sure it's staying where it's gonna stay, like paint or something, right? So now I've put my thin clear coat down here on top of my chest, all right? Thin clear coat is down. The next step for me is to take my paper, flip it upside down, and spray it with water. Not a lot, just a little. Spraying it a little with water is just gonna allow it to become a bit more stretchable, if that makes sense. Because when this paper is super dry, it's not stretchy, but when it's a little bit wet, you're able to really kind of pick it up and move it around and not worry about getting it exactly perfect the first time. See, like that's not far enough over, so I need to just come a little bit further over. Let's check my edges. That's better. That's better. That's better. That could be better. So I'm going to come up again. See how many times I can pick it up and move it around? You're not locked in because you sprayed the back of your paper, and that's going to let it be just a little bit more forgiving. Okay, so now my paper is there, right? It's not sealed. It's not pushed down. This is where I'm gonna get my secret weapon, right? This is my saran wrap. This is not being sealed on top, and it's not even smooth yet. But I'm gonna start in the middle, and I'm going to gently push out my paper. You can also, if you wanna cut your paper bigger, that's okay too. You can cut your paper bigger, wait for it to get dry, and then use a sharp knife to come in. And you can then just take your knife and go slice when this is dry and pull off that extra piece, which is what I'm thinking I'm gonna do because it's actually a pretty darn good fit. I just don't want this edge and this edge to come up too high. I'd rather put it down a bit larger, and then I'm able to, you know, cut that once it's dry. I don't want to cut that when it's wet because it's going to tear the paper. So you can see here, you can see a bit of the color of the paint peeking through a little bit more than over here. When this dries, it's gonna look like this. I can actually get my heat gun and I can dry it a bit more for you. When it's wet, it's a bit darker. When it dries, it's gonna go lighter. Let me show you. See if I can get some dryness. See how that's getting lighter? So once that completely dries, it's gonna be as light as like the lightest bits that you see. It's just that this paper is a bit more wet over here. So once this dries, I'm going to seal the entire piece again with more clear coat, because that clear coat is allowing me to seal down the paper and make it tougher. Right now, this is all wet, this is damp, but I don't see any wrinkles. You see how beautiful and flat that paper is? Just by using a bit of saran wrap to gently push anything out, any air bubbles, any wrinkles. That's how you're gonna get the most perfect decoupage to your piece. Also, not taking up any of that ink, right? Because when this ink is printed on top of the paper, it's easily pushed off. It's easily removed until you kind of like lock it in. And if I were to rub, what's gonna happen is all of this is gonna lift off. And I don't want that. I want this to be as perfect as possible. So now we've done the top of this box with these cute little bugs. I'm a big fan of bugs. I like transfers with bugs. I like paper with bugs. So cute. Let's work on the front of this piece. We're gonna do the same thing on these two inset panels. Can you see these two panels right here? We're gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna use the same paper that I've already started to cut up. I'm going to either score it or cut it. I think what I'll do is I'll start here by cutting this piece straight across. And then I can measure, after I get measurements on one, I can measure the other one. So let's see how big this is gonna be. What do I want the center to be? I kind of love that giant dragonfly. He's super cute. You could put him in there, right there. I want him to be center, front and center. So I'm just going to score the edges of my paper again with my pencil. You can do this with your fingernail, with a pencil. I don't suggest a marker because it is paper that you need to kind of see the edges. I honestly probably should have turned it over and scored it because it's harder to see with all of these little creatures on the front. But we are good. We're gonna just go slowly. Slow and steady wins the race. Again, just cutting gently. Okay. We're gonna see how well this fits inside this spot. Perfection, so cute. Okay, so now we have that one. Let's do the other side. Again, I'm gonna kind of rough cut and then I will be able to cut it smaller. Is that gonna be big enough? A little bit wider. Also, this paper does have a repeating edge. If you were to buy two of them and lay it down, you would be good with being able to spread it out across a very large surface. I'm going to turn this one upside down so it's a little easier for me to see my pencil line. Perfect. So coming in, cutting my edges. And I really do think I'm gonna come back and take some of that paper and cut out the butterflies and then even scatter them along the sides of this little chest. We'll see how much I want to add. Okay. That one's good too. That one's actually a little bit big. Let's just trim that bottom edge a tiny bit. Okay, so you can see the color of this paper, so how much brighter it is. That's how, when it dries, that's the color of brightness you're going to get. But because it's wet when we put it down, it's gonna be a little bit more see-through. All right, Remember the first step to putting down your paper? I'm going to take my clear coat and apply it liberally to the area where I want this paper to stick. I'm going to take my water bottle and spray the back of my paper gently. This is going to allow my paper to become a little bit stretchy, right? And I'm going to line it up into this inset square. Once it grabs and I feel comfortable with the way that it's sitting, which is all good, I'm going to take my saran wrap from the middle. I'm going to push out gently. Remember, I'm not rubbing hard. By pushing out gently, I'm removing any excess air, any bubbles, and I'm creating a nice smooth surface with no wrinkles. There's no wrinkles there. That looks like $1,000,000. Again, you can see the difference between the dry paper color, the wet paper color. This will lift, this will dry and become lighter again. Not 100% light because this is on a darker shade of green, but if you were to put white underneath here, this would look exactly the same. I don't mind a little bit of color tone from underneath peeking through. Hey Rhonda, how are you today? Thanks for watching. Okay, one more square. So I'm going to take my satin clear coat, stick it in the square area where I want this to live. And to be honest, I probably will seal this entire piece in satin clear coat just because I like to add a little bit more protection to my projects. Again, taking the back side of the paper, giving it a slight spritz. It's not soaking wet, it's just gently damp. It's just allowing the paper to become a little bit stretchy. And that's the trick to getting the ability to pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down. Like if you think you're putting it in the wrong spot and you need to pick it up and you didn't wet the back, it's gonna be a harder job to do. Hi Patty, how are you today? Okay, so again, I'm going to come in and lay my tiny little square down, get it into the fit that I would like. That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna grab my paper, my saran wrap paper, and just gently push out from the middle, making sure that I have smoothed gently and I don't have any wrinkles. Look at that, so cute, so cute. I'm super into bugs. I don't know why I like little creepy crawlies so much. Maybe because I'm a boy mom and I have 2 boys. I feel like I know everything in the world about dinosaurs and bugs and creepy crawlies. Adorable. Okay, let's go back to the top and see how it's drying. Oh, it's getting dry, I can see. So I will take my knife once this is 100% dry and just cut in around this edge and remove the tiny bit of excess. Another trick would be to take the same color that you used on your piece and actually paint that edge in. But once it's dry, it's super easy to cut with a very sharp knife, but you do have to have 100% dry paper. You can't do this when it's wet because it will tear funky. You really want to wait. So once it's dry, I'm going to seal it again with my satin clear coat, and then my little chest will be done. Isn't it a cutie? I love a little chest. I love a little box. I am fully 100% prepared to get smoked on social media though, because I painted over chickens. There were some country style chickens on here, and I had 3 of these chests, and the last time I painted over the country style chickens, those 1990s women came for me. They came for me hard. They were not happy that I painted over some country chickens, but now we're gonna update it and give it a new vibe. It's got a whole new look, and it will fit in probably somebody's house as a cute little toy box. Wouldn't that be a sweet toy box? I love it. So my friends, that is the simple way to do decoupage paper. This is the only way that I apply my paper with no wrinkles. You can see how smooth this is. So smooth. I know some people use irons and some people have different techniques. This is fast. This is easy. This gets the job totally done. And it just keeps it simple. Because if it's hard, I'm not going to do it. So the paper that I use today is called Book of Insects. Book of Insects comes in 2 different sizes. You can choose your size at checkout. I made sure to include that link in the description so that you can also find this paper. And there's a ton more. There's actually a really great amount of paper on sale right now. And you should totally check it out because it's adorable. I love to make stuff just look that little bit more fancy. Little fancy pants is always fun for me. So I hope you learned something about decoupage today. And if you wanted to try it and you love it, send me a picture. I'd love to see what you create. And if you have questions, as always, I'm always around to help. You can send me a message and I can talk you through the process. But it's not hard. Step 1 is cut your paper to size. Step 2, apply your satin clear coat. Step 3, use your water misting bottle to spray the back of the paper. And then you're going to use your saran wrap to push those wrinkles out and get a nice smooth surface. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I totally promise. Thanks for hanging out with me today here on my Top Drawer VA page. I will be back next week on Wednesday. And next Wednesday, I will be showing you something new and fancy because Dixie Belle is releasing some new colors and I'm gonna have so much fun stuff to show you. So stay tuned.